Welcome to the Tea of Life podcast, where our mission is to transform every area of life by encouraging and equipping you to live the life you love and love the life you live. I am your host, Tiffany Thompson. And here I am today, folks, with another episode of Tea of Life podcast. I am so excited that you have decided to join me today. Today, I'm going to be talking about what to do when you're feeling stuck. Do you ever feel like you're not going anywhere? That you're on a path or a virtual treadmill to nowhere? Do you feel like no matter what you do, you cannot move ahead? All of us have been there at one time or another. In fact, my husband and I, are just coming out of a place where we have felt stuck. I've been teaching others how to become the best that they can be and how to live their best life, all while feeling somewhat stuck in our own lives. That didn't happen because this stuff doesn't work. It happened because we allowed it to happen. However, we have recently become unstuck, and the feeling is amazing. Everything that I have talked about in this podcast, we believe wholeheartedly and practice in our everyday lives. That does not mean that we are going to avoid trouble or hard times because of these things that we practice and share with you. What it means is that when those troubles or hard times come about, we are prepared to take action, and that whatever is thrown at us is manageable because we have prepared ourselves emotionally, mentally, financially, physically, spiritually, and so on. Because we have done the work that has been needed to be done, when my husband was hit with unexpectedly being let go from his job, we were fine. We were better than fine. In fact, the moment that he came home and told me what happened, I felt like I could fly. I felt so free. And that exact same freedom is what I desire for you to have wholeheartedly. My husband's first instinct is to take care of his household, as it should be. So when he told me about being let go from his job, he followed it up with what any loving and responsible husband and father would say. He mentioned that he didn't know what he was going to do. To which I responded with, "Are you kidding me? We are going sailing." I said this with great enthusiasm because I knew that we had been also working very hard over the years to set ourselves up for success, financially, emotionally, physically. Well, we can always use a little more help on the physical part, but you know what I'm saying. And all these things include the fact that we live minimally. When the people around us were buying bigger, newer, quote unquote, better is relative, by the way, we chose to stay right where we were. We chose to continue the financial path that we had set ourselves on so long ago. Now, was this an easy choice? Heck no. Not by any means. We would continually visit other houses and come home feeling like we were stuck where we were. And I use the word stuck loosely because I know it's totally been our choice. But we knew what our values were. And we knew that if we wanted to stay debt-free and duty-free, so to speak, we had to continue the path of minimal living, continuing to live on less than we made. What a concept. When I say live on less than you make, I am saying live on less than what your bring home pay is. It's easier to live on what you make before paying Uncle Sam, before giving any amount to your church or charity, before putting any money into savings, assuming that you actually put money into savings, or investing in your 401k, assuming you do that as well. The money that you need to be living on is what is left over after all of those things have already been done. I'm not assuming that everyone listening to this podcast is living paycheck to paycheck. That would be insane. However, studies show that as of January 2019, 80% of American workers are living paycheck to paycheck. Look around. This may not be the case with you, and I pray that it's not, but according to the studies, 8 out of every 10 people listening to this podcast are, and that is not acceptable. That is not sustainable. My biggest desire for you is for you to live in the same freedom that we have found. It's great on this side of the equation. Life will catch up with you. And then you will suddenly realize that it has possibly passed you by. You will not be prepared if you are living this way. You cannot be prepared. There's no way that you can be prepared while living paycheck to paycheck. Actually, that's probably the definition of not being prepared. While preparing this podcast, I considered the statistics of people living on more than they make. These are not the same people living paycheck to paycheck, I guess. These are those who actually pull out a credit card every time they make a purchase and have no idea how much they are spending on their paycheck. You may think that that's insane and that people don't actually not keep track of their spending. Well, I'm here to tell you that there are people like that, and they do indeed exist. These are the ones who pay for everything on their credit card and make minimum payments at the end of every month, all the while acquiring more and more debt every month and never looking at the total that they owe. I've had personal encounters and conversations with people like this. It does happen. They do exist. I couldn't find an official statistic just on the percentage of people spending more than they make. It looks like maybe the 8 out of 10 statistic possibly includes these people too. But I did find multiple websites calculating about 55% or so of the 80% of Americans living paycheck to paycheck are living on more than they make. At least the people living paycheck to paycheck kind of understand that they shouldn't expect anything left over at the end of the month. These other people think that they have money left over because technically, I guess they do in their bank accounts, but their growing credit card debt shows another story. So let's say that you're feeling stuck right now in your job and you desperately want or need a change. And you were to go into work today and for whatever reason, your boss lets you go. Would you suddenly feel unstuck and free like we did? Or would that stuck feeling suddenly transfer to extreme panic because you're now stuck trying to figure out what you're going to do about your financial state? Another thing is that since over the years we have gotten rid of so much stuff in our house, we no longer feel overwhelmed and out of control of managing stuff. We no longer feel stuck with our belongings. Over the course of our marriage, we had acquired things that we realized we didn't really want. Some of this were things that were passed down to us from previous generations, and a lot of it was just junk in the way. It didn't create the environment that we wanted for our home, but we felt obligated to take care of these things because the sentimental value that they carried. Like I have mentioned many times before, we have chosen to stay in a smaller home, and so these items began to make us feel cramped in our own home. So we said enough is enough, and we took control of our own environment and began the art of minimizing our belongings in our home. We began to notice that we gained back a bunch of time for ourselves because we were taking care of all of the stuff that used to fill our home and the stuff that we really didn't want anyway. It was very time consuming, so we were no longer taking care of those things. Plus, we have been able to set ourselves up for financial success because we no longer buy more stuff that we don't need to add to our space. We buy things we need. We don't buy things we don't need. We can live without the things we don't need. It all adds up to be a lot. So we also began to notice that we gained back our time for doing things that we love to do because we no longer have to take care of all the stuff that was cluttering up our lives. Cleaning, dusting, protecting, rearranging. I don't know about you, but I own things that I could never find that perfect place for. So I would rearrange my belongings frequently, very frequently, over and over again. And this was taking up space in my home as well as my mind because I was constantly thinking about this all the time. Or every time I would pass it by, I would feel anxious because it didn't work in the space that it was in, but I had no idea what to do with it or about how getting rid of it. That was never even a thought that came to my mind. In fact, when I did start getting rid of stuff, I felt another kind of anxiety, and I realized that my problem with stuff ran a lot deeper than it just being in my way all the time. I do plan on unpacking that with you in another podcast. So I've gotten a little off track here. I'm sorry. I am just really passionate about all of this. But because I knew that we had set ourselves up for success financially, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and so on, I knew that we were going to be okay. Where you are right now in life, like your age or your current circumstances, it can determine the level of intensity that you feel stuck. For instance, if you're older, you may feel stuck because you're closer to retirement and you're trying to finish well. Or if you are in high school, even though the chances of you being in high school and listening to this podcast are very slim, but just, work with me here. Maybe even take yourself back to that time and place for yourself, to a time when you felt like you weren't going anywhere. You may have felt overwhelmed or anxious about not being able to make good grades or even good enough grades. You may have been going through a tragedy that you didn't have time to unpack or process because of the demands of high school. No matter what they say, being in school does not prepare you for the real world. And if you'd like to hear me unpack a little more about that, you can listen to 2 of our previous podcast episodes, Homeschooling and Cultivating Lifelong Learning, and School is Not That Important. School is not something that you can just escape when you're not feeling it. You have to stick it out. There's definitely some good learning and persevering through that, but it is definitely different than having a job in the quote unquote real world. Then you finally graduate high school and you feel free. I remember that time and feeling. You may have moved on to a college, feeling some more freedom. Then that feeling probably left as you got deeper into your studies and you suddenly felt stuck again, and you could hardly wait until you graduated so that you could get married and start a family of your own. Then finally you grow up and get a job. You may feel great at first. Again, maybe it's your dream job and you feel like you're on top of the world when you get a job that lines up with what you love to do most, which is absolutely amazing. But that doesn't mean that you'll never feel stuck again. The job that's right for you today may not be the job that's right for you tomorrow. There can be many reasons for that. It could be that you have grown mentally, emotionally, or even spiritually. It could mean that your family has grown. It could be that you move. For any reason, your desires have changed. It could be that you've learned so much that you need to move on in order to move up. It could be that the people that you work with may not be your people or may no longer be your people because you have progressed and grown beyond where they have progressed and grown. All of these reasons are okay, and I don't believe God intends for us to be in the same place for always. It's not like He's given you your dream job and then suddenly walked away and said, good luck with that. Have fun. See you later. He's not done that at all, and He never will. My husband was in that exact same place that I just talked about. He did unexpectedly lose what was once his dream job, but God had other plans for this part of his life. And it's been very evident that this is the time to chase a new dream. Chances are you're not going to be in one career for all of your life. Society tells us and pressures us to figure out what we like to do as early as possible and work toward doing that one thing for the rest of our life. We're constantly asked, what is your passion? I don't believe we have one passion. I think we have passions, many passions. So schools now give tests to students as early as 3rd grade and encourage them at that age to start figuring out what they want to do for the rest of their life. I don't know about you, but when I was in 3rd grade, all I wanted to do was marry Kirk Cameron and work at the skating rink because I thought that the people who got to choose what music to play on the loudspeakers as people skated around the skating rink were the coolest, quote unquote, adults that there were. Thank God for unanswered prayers, right? So we may feel that we have only one calling in our life, and that's fine, but it will take us many avenues to complete that calling by the end of our life. At one part of our life, we may do one thing that points us toward that calling, then find that another thing points us toward that calling at a different point of our life. There's something else that we can do in order to fulfill our calling. And every experience builds on the previous experience. You cannot suddenly jump to the end. You have to take the proper steps, or in this case, the proper jobs to get you there. The career choice that my husband is doing right now could have never happened without the steps taken from his last job, and the steps taken from his job before that, and the steps taken from the job before that, and so on. You see where I'm going here. It prepared him for everything that he is doing now. In fact, every job that he has ever had, even the ones that he had in high school, are paying off now. With what he's doing now, he is able to use all the talents that he has acquired since being a teenager and even learn some new ones. Every talent, experience, and every bit of knowledge has built upon one another to prepare him for this moment in time. It's amazing how we've seen everything come together as it has. Nothing has gone in vain. Nothing has gone to waste. And I am so excited to see where this is going to end up taking him. Sometimes in order to get a change, you just need to change your habits. The meaning of insanity is doing the same thing over and over every day, expecting different results. Well, we are never meant to do that. We're never meant to do the same thing over and over every day. We were meant for change, growth, and progress. What would you do right now if you could do anything? What just popped into your mind when I asked you that question? What do you think it would take to get you there? Courage, support from family, financial security? And when I say financial security, I don't mean being a millionaire. I don't mean making more money. I've heard it said that the key to financial success is 20% behavior and 80% head knowledge. Notice that the key to financial success has nothing to do with how much you make. It all boils down to behavior and head knowledge. I once heard Dave Ramsey say, if you are a generous person, having more money will make you more generous. If you are a jerk, having more money will make you a bigger jerk. And I have personally witnessed this to be very true. When my husband and I first got married, he was a drummer in a Christian music band. And for the first 4.5 years of our marriage, we made, are you ready for this? $14,500 a year. Yes, you heard me correctly. We made only $14,500 a year, and nobody knew it. We lived completely debt-free. We rented a one-bedroom condo in a small, more inexpensive town, and we had minimal expenses. We had a lot of stuff crammed into that condo, but we didn't continue to buy stuff. Most all of it was stuff that we had brought into our marriage that we thought we could not live without. We had a couch and a kitchen table that we did buy from a garage sale, and my husband brought in all the electronics and computers and TV and equipment and all that stuff that goes along with it. I had a one-bedroom suite that I had saved up and paid cash for when I was 16 years old. And we had 2 rocking chairs on our front porch that someone gave us for a wedding gift, which was awesome. And we both had paid for cars, and that was all we needed. We were as happy as can be. When we became pregnant with our first child, my husband decided to come off the road and find a job that could support a family. Obviously, making $14,500 a year was working for us, but we didn't want to have a child while living on that little of an income. Plus, he was traveling a lot and he wanted to be home with his new baby. So he found a full-time job, which was a sudden increase in pay, a huge increase in pay. But we were already used to living on little, so it should have not been a big change for us, right? Well, wrong. We started making more money, so what else is there to do than to start acting like it and to start spending more money? So we bought a house because everyone knows that you cannot live in a one-bedroom condo with a baby, right? Haha. So, however, Our house buying story is a really cool story. And I've shared that before, and I'm sure I'll share that again. But in addition to the house, we financed a minivan because obviously a family of 3 needs a 7-passenger vehicle, and we got a dog. So in literally 1 year's time, my husband came off the road, got a new job, bought a house, had a baby, financed a minivan, got a dog, and we also got our first credit card as a married couple. This was 5 years into our marriage. We were 29 and 30, and we finally felt grown up. I mean, we actually had a credit card, so we were kind of grown up, right? So what do we do with that credit card? Though we used it. I mean, duh. What do you do with a credit card what good is it if you don't use it, right? So we finally, about 4 years after that, woke up from all the madness and said that enough is enough. We ended up paying off everything. We paid off our minivan and actually another car that we had ended up financing along the way. We paid off our credit card, and it took us about a year, but we finally were debt-free again, and it felt amazing, and we have been debt-free ever since. So another thing that you can do to actually help you feel unstuck is getting out into the community. Just getting out into the community can allow you to feel better about where you are. You can help people and they can help you. Sometimes this can lead to you exploring a more meaningful career or career path. Some say that the path to happiness is helping others. Maybe you feel stuck because you are too focused on yourself and you need to be more others focused. Just because you choose a career that helps other people doesn't always mean that you have to sacrifice in wages, though, okay? There are careers out there that can provide good incomes to those who help others. But going back to the head knowledge and behavior, remember that making more money will not solve your problems. Sometimes making more money can add to your problems. So there is an old Chinese saying that says, if you want happiness for an hour, take a nap. If you want happiness for a day, go fishing. If you want happiness for a year, inherit a fortune. If you want happiness for a lifetime, help somebody. Sometimes getting past the feeling of being stuck can be achieved just by helping someone get past their feeling of being stuck. There are so many opportunities in the community that you live in that will allow you to help others. What are your strengths? What are you good at? What are you good at that can help someone else? It doesn't have to be anything that has anything to do with your career. Maybe you're already good with your finances in your personal life and you have a passion for helping others with theirs. Instead of searching for a job that allows you to do that, start by volunteering to help people figure out how to navigate their finances or help them figure out how to get on a budget. Take an hour out of your week to volunteer to help maybe one person get on a path to success. You never have any idea where this can lead you down the road. Are you good with animals? Go to your local animal shelter and volunteer sometime to help them out. The gift of time can be more valuable than the gift of money. So if there's something that you're passionate about and there's an opportunity for you to get out in the community and volunteer to do that, make some time during your week or even your month to do it. I've known people who have volunteered with their dream organization or even their dream corporation and have actually landed jobs with that organization because when an opening came up in that place, they were already there and they were already known by the organization. They were the ones who got offered the job first. It also gives you the chance to see if it's really your dream. You may get in there and find out that this organization or this corporation is not what you thought it was in the beginning, and maybe find out that it doesn't line up with your values after all. So at that point, all you need to do is stop volunteering. Go somewhere else. Go find another place to volunteer. It's not like you shifted your entire life around getting a job that you later find out that is not what you thought it was. And now you have to quit that job and find something else to do. You would just quit the volunteer position and move on to something else. Obviously, like I said before, things build on each other. So that experience is not going to go in vain, but you can just move on. So there's a really cool organization called Volunteer Match that matches your desires and qualifications with the perfect volunteer organization. I also found other websites focused on helping others to find ways to give back to their community. I'm going to put a link to those in our website in my show notes for this podcast. So you can just go to toflifepodcast.com/feeling stuck. So the bottom line of today's episode is if you're feeling stuck in your job or even your life, reevaluate what really matters most to you. Become financially secure by getting out of debt and creating an atmosphere to where there would be no stress if you were to suddenly lose your job. Sometimes just changing your habits can make a world of difference. Also, if you could do anything, what would it be? That's your homework. You need to figure that out. So think about that and begin taking small steps toward that in order to create the life that you love to live. What's the first thing that popped into your brain when I ask you that question? Also, get out into the community and love on those around you. You may be surprised by the results of doing just that. You never know where that can lead. If you need help with your monthly budgeting and or getting out of debt, or if you just have a question that you'd like to ask regarding this or any previous episode, email me at tiffany@toflifepodcast.com. I'll try my best to answer any question that you have or point you in the right direction. If you would like your question read on a podcast and answered on a podcast, I'll be more than happy to do that as well. So if you're looking to become financially free, you can also start that by visiting daveramsey.com. So thanks for listening to today's podcast episode, and I cannot wait to meet with you again. If you like Tea of Life podcast and you've got two friends who want to create the life that they love to live, tell them about us. Find us on your favorite social media platform like Facebook or Instagram. Also, right now before you forget, go to Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts and search for Tea of Life podcast. Hit the subscribe button and never miss an episode. Thank you for listening to Tea of Life podcast. We will see you next Thursday.